on their industry and how we are treating with that. Subsequently, we will have Director Stewart come forward and share with you some of the operational issues, and then I will come on the back end with some additional bits of information.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here to share some of the experience that the old Tobago fisher folk been experiencing over the last couple of days. Actually, the last 8 days or so. I mean, it's a great experience. I mean, this is something I didn't expect to happen to us or to the people of the greatest little island for decades. I didn't really expect this to happen. But every day we are on the scene, working with a team, through TEMA, and through the Office of the Chief Secretary and other organizations to ensure that the work is done and done at a very high and professional level. We have learned over the past couple of days how to lay booms and to adjust to work with the current by sharing our information and our experience as fisher folks in Tobago about the waters and the climate in Tobago from the fishing aspect of it. So we have more than 6 fishing vessels that is attached to this team. Also over 30 fisher folks that is on hand and ready for action at any given time to be called upon each day to ensure we safeguard and protect our environment or the fishing industry. Now, so far I must say we have made a lot of improvement in the terms from when it starts from even in the shores of Scarborough to now. So we'd have laid boom and we would have challenged some of these booms to shore so that the trucks would come and evaporate them out, suck them out. So we are working really assiduously to ensure that our fishing industry is protected, and also to protect and to build, continue to build together with the other organization and with the THA, build the greatest little island in the world, which is Tobago. And with that, I would like to say thank you all for the support, and also I would like to say to the fisher folks, that are in the Lambo vicinity, right? I know this is your living. I know this is your living, but we are asking you kindly for at least 3 weeks to a month, could you just stop selling fish in those days whereby you all could be able to apply your trade? Because we do not want anyone getting sick or infected. So please work with the All Tobago Fisher Folk, the Fisheries Department, the THA, work with these teams so that we could achieve this, so that we will not have anything further coming out of the oil spill while anyone getting sick by cross-contamination, by selling fish or such. So we are pleading with some of the members or the vendors that are there that is plying this trade. But I would also like to issue a thank you to all the fisher folks that is working together to make this happen, to safeguard our environment in Tobago. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, once again I greet you, and I'm very pleased to be here. This is one of the press briefings that I'm very, very pleased to be involved in, because we come bearing good fruits and positive information. You know, there is a saying that goes like this: it's not what happened to you, but how you react to it. And for where we stand today, I got up this morning and I felt as though that we have climbed a very steep hill in this response. And I must say we are on a plateau at this point where we can say we have command and control over this particular incident and wherever it may lead us. It is clear that over 1 week ago, things were not the way they are today, and we have made certain progress. Today I want to signal to you, reflect on what we have done so far in terms of today's operational period. It began at 0600 hours this morning, and it will continue probably way after, somewhere around 2000 hours. I want, in doing so, breaking it down into what were the achievements. We saw coming into bear the work again by Kaizen, Heritage, Ambitipa, Tiger Tank, and Frontier. These operations began at that time, and we are very pleased of the work that they have been doing in laying additional booms. Also, based on our assessment yesterday, we are able to look at the 15 kilometers of impacted area and go inside of it and look for a sort of a triage approach to those pockets that we recognize that is causing some repetitive work to be done. You know, when we came here 72 hours after the event, some folks felt it was going too slow. So what you have is that you move in stuff and you see it coming back again. We have been able to work in such a way signifying that what we are doing on the outside has an impact here on shoreline, and this is a demonstration you're seeing today. Those repetitions, while they may be necessary, it's like washing your car when there is rain in the forecast. You'll have to do it all over again. And so doing, we saw some of that occurring, but we were able to manage that effectively with some of the technical advice that we bring to the table. And to me, that is going quite well. So I want to thank those international bodies who have lent their support through their local agents. I also want to thank the national government who have provided some, like the EMA, the IMA, the Ministry of Energy, who since the Tier 2 have kicked into operation, the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan have been very impactful in terms of how we mobilize and how we operate in the space. This work is going to continue tomorrow. We can confirm that the tanks that are necessary for storage will be in play by tomorrow, where we will be able to, use as reservoirs so that we could store these things going forward. So I want to thank you very much for your patience, Tobago. I want to thank the international, the media as a whole, whether local or international, for allowing this message to be broadcast. Very positive news. But I also want to thank those persons for the liberty of their comments, because it strengthens us, it allows us to view things in a particular way. A number of persons come forward in terms of want to volunteer their expertise. We have listened to them, we have used the information pass, and we come away with every single day briefings that inform our incident action plan for the next day. So I want to thank you all very much, and we continue to do this thing. We have this under control, and we will come out shining where this matter is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stewart. A few things I wish to place for your attention. Some updates and some operational matters I think you need to pay attention to for your own safety. That is the general public. In terms of task 1, the containment process continues. In fact, we have placed secondary and tertiary booms around the area. And if you go there now, you will see the team continues to work around the clock. And we are using larger and the larger booms to ensure we can contain all of the oil. At yesterday's check, and a new map should come out from our resident cartographer, that is Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
We will show you, he's the GIS specialist, but he's becoming one more for the one that's creating our maps. At yesterday's point, we reasoned that some of the material had sailed some 88 kilometers heading out of Tobago's waters. At this point, it's much more than that, and there will be the issuing of a much more recent map later today, because we will want to ensure that where we have Caribbean neighbors that might and would be affected by this, that they are informed ahead of time. So we are paying attention to that as well. I also want to bring to your attention that we currently have a team of independent international experts from OSRL, that stands for Oil Spill Response Limited. It is an international company to which Trinidad and Tobago is a party. And because we are a member of that company and that arrangement, in instances like these, they fly their expertise into the island at no cost at all to the government to ensure that they do quality control. And they arrived on island late Monday night, and throughout yesterday and even today, they are actively reviewing all of the sites, all of the activities, and continue to give us sound advice so as to ensure that we meet international best practice. And so the international community can be assured that even in the cleanup efforts, we are doing absolutely nothing that's injurious to our environment. And we are ensuring that we keep it as safe as possible. Let me also indicate to you, because I have seen the videos and I've seen those that have gone in and out of the mangroves. We have a team that is working 24/7, actually looking at wildlife species and the impact on wildlife species. And they essentially extracting species that might be at risk, that might have come into contact with the hydrocarbons, and they are doing the necessary cleaning of those animals consistent with the protocols that are required in these instances. And yes, they are working not just in the daytime but also in the night, because we appreciate that some animals are nocturnal in their behavior, and so we want to ensure that we capture and we not just capture and rescue, but we rehabilitate those that require rehabilitation, and that we can ensure that our wildlife continue to enjoy their life here in Tobago, so to speak. There are some other matters for your attention. One, I want to highlight that we have several areas cordoned off, and it is cordoned off for your safety. And we observe that people are attempting to move the cones and to drive through the cordoned off areas. The areas that are cordoned off really and truly does not affect your travel in any significant way. For starters, we have cordoned off the area going down to Cano Bay, because later tonight we should be installing frac tanks in that area, and those frac tanks are storage tanks by which we are going to deposit the hydrocarbon from the ocean and have it stored securely. And so what we really want is to advise people to stay away from that area. We have had enough sightseeing, the photos and videos are everywhere, but what we really need is to be able to extract quite safely what's in the water, and that setup, that staging area is being processed as we speak. The second area cordoned off is that area around the Petitru Beach, starting at the junction before you turn right to the Belgrove crematorium, and it extends just beyond that bridge. What's the name of that bridge? Thompson Bridge? Right. Yeah. So the big bridge in Lambo? Right. So it extends just beyond there. No one lives in that area. And because no one lives in that area, you really don't have to drive in that area. You can use the highway to access other parts of Hampden Lowlands. That too is for your safety, because we have had incidents of the sea splashes bringing the hydrocarbon content onto the roadway, making it difficult and slippery for drivers. One little bit of rainfall and we could have quite a precarious situation. As you will observe even here, you see the splatters from the oil that is resident here now over time. Right, this same situation has occurred in those areas, and so when we ask you not to drive there, it's for your own safety. The third area is that small area between Cemetery Street, junction in Lambo, and Lambo Village Street. That's the street leading to the primary school. You can actually drive around the primary school and exit down to the Lambo Road, or the Old Road as we call it. So your access to those areas are really not cut off. What we have done is to cut off the areas that can become a little bit dangerous for you to drive on for your own safety. I also wish to advise that in some of those areas, because of the construct of the cove and the coastline, we are actually preparing to use scaffolding, for example, as a method to be able to access those points. So you can observe that the beach is clean, but we still have to do some work on the rocks because the rocks are stained and so on. To get in all of those crevices and to clean it out properly, we will have to utilize some scaffolding as a strategy. That too will become an impediment for you in the roadway. So please bear with us where traffic is concerned. And at this location, and at this revetment work done at Lower Milford Road, I want you to be cautious as you are driving along the road. It is busier than usual. We will have workers crisscrossing the road because we have the command center on this side of the road. On the opposite side, we have more or less our command headquarters established. So TIMA is running all of its operations from right here in downtown, as opposed to Fairfield Complex for the next couple of days until we have this resolved. In fact, even the monitoring for Carnival was done from this location downtown. And if you have never seen that before, it might be a good opportunity to see how we can, on the go, anywhere, set up a boardroom and get going when necessary. So I need you to pay attention to those things for us, please. Let me also add that we are doing daily checks to monitor air quality in the area. I can tell you for a fact that the tests that were done, and we had a representative clerk present. We also had a director steward present for those tests. Those meters were reading at 0, which means that it is not harmful to be in the area. However, we appreciate that there is still a strong odor emanating from some areas, and you would have seen the impact on the operations of 2 schools within close proximity. But we continue to monitor it because we want to ensure that those working to help us with manual cleanup, our students and the villagers, that they will not be experiencing anything that's harmful. It is not by accident that we are keeping the press conference here as opposed to in a conference room. It's so we can actively demonstrate that nothing will go wrong with you, because the air quality is being monitored daily and it is at very safe levels for you. So there's nothing for you to worry about in terms of air quality at this time, right? Perhaps much earlier on in the process we had some issues, perhaps because we had the oil, the scent was a lot more, we did not get all the equipment to do the air quality testing and so on, and so out of an abundance of caution we had to remove activities from this area. But at this present time we can speak to the fact that the air quality is good. And next area for me to bring to your attention, I've seen people ask about volunteers and how is that going to work. This seems like a very specialist area, and maybe somebody should pay me to do this as opposed to me volunteering. You know, I really think that this really and truly should be the time to demonstrate patriotism and nationalism. I can tell you, the team here, we work till very late every single night. There's perhaps no night that we get home the same day we leave home for work. And sometimes when we leave home for work, we are heading back to the port because we have ships coming in and they need to be offloaded before the inter-island ferry service gets in. And something that is happening at 4 o'clock in the morning while you might be sleeping. We are out sometimes before they clean just to get the work done, right? And so I want to, one, appreciate the workers in Tima, two, appreciate the volunteers. And this morning when the Executive Council met, and we met right there in the tent, one of the things we discussed, and there is some agreement too, is that for the CPEP, URP, LEP workers that have been used, and some of the derivative workers, that efforts are to be made to look into some allowance for their interaction with the hazardous material. So we didn't just take them from where they are and dump them and say, okay, work here, and we won't appreciate you in any way. So there will be some additional allowance that is being considered right now. I can't give you a figure because I've asked the team to sit, look at it, look at what's possible, and that's being considered for the workers that we have transferred to these areas so that there is some compensation for their efforts. I must take this opportunity to also thank the scores of Trinidadians who have come to Tobago not to enjoy Store Bay or Pigeon Point and not to go and take a TikTok video to show that I was there, but to actually come and be part of the volunteerism. In fact, in one sailing we had 40 Trinidadians come up to be part of the volunteer program, and these are Trinidadians who have worked with oil spill recovery in the past, so they have the experience. And so what we have been doing is interspersing the experienced ones with the not so experienced ones so that the training and the knowledge transfer is happening. Additionally, tomorrow 2 training sessions are being set up tomorrow on Friday. Tomorrow is Thursday, I'm rushing the week. On Friday, and that's coming out of, I think, Petrobras.
Marine Division.
The Marine Division, sorry, is doing that, and those training those training sessions are to further augment the skill set of our volunteers. So by the time we are done with this exercise, anytime anything like this should happen again, we should have a body of Tobagonians on island who are ready to give an immediate response, and we don't have to necessarily wait on getting both human capital and other resources from Trinidad to treat with the incident. So that too is happening in the space. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, and I know you are biting at your chops to ask me a question about this, we saw, just like you, a press release that came out today indicating that the Ministry of National Security has identified the vessel or the culprits for this issue. And I want to say thank you to the Ministry of National Security, and I do appreciate being forthright about it. It's just coincidental that last night someone WhatsApped me some information about this same vessel and asked me to look into it because they said they believe this is the vessel that's responsible. But even in the press release, there are a lot of unanswered questions. The first of which is, it really took you 7 days to indicate that you lost a vessel and that it might be your vessel. 7 days. We got that report on Wednesday, last week Wednesday at 7:20 a.m. and more than likely that vessel was lost before that time. Last week Wednesday at 7:20 a.m. was the time Tobagonians start noticing the hydrocarbons washing ashore and the vessel stuck out there. So you really took that long to come forward and to take ownership of this. This is your vessel and you have not arrived to Tobago as yet to sit with the people who have been part of this cleanup. Yes. And let me tell you how critical that is. You know what you were carrying, And the press release does not even indicate clearly what they were carrying and the quantity of what they were carrying. The WhatsApp message I got last night says that they were carrying 5,000 metric tons of fuel. Is that true? The WhatsApp I got last night also said that the owner of this vessel actually is one of those trying to purchase the refinery down in Point 14. Is that true? The WhatsApp I got last night said that the tug is flagged to Tanzania, that tug called Solo Creed, and that the vessel itself is flagged to Cyprus. Is that true? Is that in fact true? And now, and is it true that what we see as Gulfstream is essentially perhaps an older name, the original name, and that this new name was perhaps something called Zoom Zoom of that sort? Is that true? So we have a lot of questions, and so now is the best time to have those questions answered, because for starters we need to know the quantity of material and what material you were transporting, so that we know what we have been dealing with, what we have been walking in, what we have been swimming in, what we have been trying to clean up from our shores. I want to know how much they will pay for this, because certainly if you were carrying this, and when the Prime Minister spoke at the press conference, he pointed out that the divers found that there was a cable connected to the vessel about a third the length of the vessel, which suggests that this vessel there was being towed, it was being pulled, it was being tugged along. You recognize your thing was broken. You see it on all sorts of global news, and it took you this long to really come forward. I mean, and I think the press release said, perhaps it's from the 4th, that they're reporting that this thing was lost from them since the 4th. Yes. And if that was the case, so nobody reached out to them between then and now to say, well, something washed up in Tobago. Sure, this is not your vessel that washed up. I mean, we could have avoided so much. Yeah. And even as we speak, and even as we are containing the hydrocarbons in that area located off Cano Bay, the vessel continues to leak this substance. So we really don't know what was the carrying capacity of this vessel. And it may very well mean that this vessel carries different chambers, different bunkering chambers with this fuel being stored. And they may not have been compromised as yet. But what if there are other areas left to be compromised that can cause an even bigger leak? We need to know that information so that we can work on extracting as soon as possible. We were able to save our paradise, because this situation should not result in a paradise lost. Certainly not for Tobago. But we need those responsible to come clean, and we need those responsible to know that they have to pay for this mess, that they are culpable as part of this mess. And so we are happy that someone has been finally identified, but we think it took too long for someone to come forward. I mean, we were sending divers down in a very dangerous situation, trying to find IMO number with a vessel that's bobbing up and down. Extremely dangerous, very strong surface currents, just to identify this vessel, when somebody could have come forward a long time ago to say, hey, I think it's my vessel. I come in Tobago to check and make sure it's mine. The press release suggests that this vessel was going to Guyana and was coming through Panama. Those details really don't matter. What matters now is that those responsible come forward, and let's treat with this in a sensible way, because there is a potential for this to become a risk to not only Tobago, but become a risk to other areas. As I indicated at yesterday's check, we had that material going some 88 kilometers going out of Tobago, and we need to ensure that we could treat with that. Right? Thank you. Any questions? No, I was not. I found out, like everyone else, from a press release that I saw circling WhatsApp, and then I saw it was online. That's how I knew the name of the vessel. Nobody called, nobody WhatsApped me, nobody said anything officially. That's how all of us found out. In fact, I sent the WhatsApp message to Mr. Stewart and the other stakeholders for the Tobago Disaster Management Committee. That's how they found out.
What I wanted to know also, Mr. Chief Secretary, in terms of the samples, and any samples returned as yet in terms of what exactly we are treating with?
Sure, none of the samples have been returned as yet. The IMA team will be in Tobago again on Friday. The samples they took thus far came from all of the ports and also from the ocean itself. What they really want to get is they want to get from almost inside the vessel itself, the sample as pure as possible, so there are no other contaminants in it. But we can safely refer to it as hydrocarbons at this point. And given that we know that the boat has an owner, and it's not a mystery boat, it's not a jumbo boat, and that the boat has a bird paper and somebody birthed the boat, they should be able to come and say exactly what they were carrying and to simplify this process for us.
I know that you said international persons are here. Is it that we are in tier 3 now?
Not necessarily. Trinidad and Tobago is a party to that company, OSRL, and the Ministry of Energy invited them as part of our agreement with them to come in. So this is a first layer. But we continue to communicate with our international partners. We continue to welcome their help wherever it may be. But certainly it's still at the national level, but we welcome any help we get from any of our international partners.
Between you, Mr. Chief Secretary, and also the head of the All Tobago Fisher Folk Association, you have any quantum at this time in terms of cost?
Well, no, I asked and I'll say this cautiously, because I don't want people to abuse the process. But certainly I've asked for this study to be done in terms of the impact on the fishing industry, particularly on those that operate and reside out of the Lambo area, because that's the primary fishing community that's impacted. So please, I don't want to see my fisher folk from Charleville saying, look, all coming by me. Let's manage the thing responsibly and honestly. So I've asked for that study to be done so that we can know exactly what the impact is, what's the impact on their boats and so on. It now might be a good time for me to say that we have environmentally friendly cleaners available that we can use and have been using to clean the vessels, clean boats and so on in the area, clean equipment in the area. We're talking about things that are environmentally friendly. So we're not talking about bright bowl and so on. We're talking environmentally friendly that can in fact go back into the environment without causing any harm. So we have those available that can be of assistance. Mr. Douglas spoke about how we want to treat with the fisher folk down in the Lambo area. I've asked Assistant Secretary Tate to reach out to them and to walk them through the process. We are going to accommodate them where is necessary. We propose to them the food hub as an alternative location, temporary location, but we are going to accommodate them wherever they feel best. So we're not picking them up and running them away. We want to put them in a safer space until the cleanup activity is completed, bearing in mind that I failed to mention this, that we don't want any smoking. We want nothing that's flammable. No open flames in the vicinity of these areas. We had a near incident yesterday where it would appear as if someone was either smoking or doing something with fire, and it caused some thick black smoke and so on coming from the beach down in Lambo. So I just want to remind persons, for your own safety, here is not the place to light it up, right? Do it somewhere safer, please, and thanks.
Now,
Yes, go ahead.
Chief Secretary, you also mentioned that it is possible, or at least from the information you gathered, it's possible that the vessel might be owned by somebody who is trying to purchase the Point Fortin industries down there, the refineries down there.
I was just asking. That information came to me, and I asked if it is true that this vessel belongs to someone trying to purchase that refinery.
If that is the case, then do you think that this was information being hidden by certain powers?
I tend not to operate in the world of conspiracy theories. I tend to not operate in the world of speculation. I tend to operate with just what the facts are. I have laid the facts as I have them. I have also pointed out the obvious coincidence of me receiving via WhatsApp someone saying, look into this vessel. This is the vessel. We believe this is the information they're trying to hide from you. And then today I see a press release confirming some of the data in that WhatsApp message. It means, therefore, because there is some point of correlation, some points of similarity, I am duty bound on behalf of Tobago to ask those questions quite pointedly and openly. But I don't want to speculate outside of asking the questions I have just asked.
Do you feel disrespected at all that you were not officially notified of that identification?
It takes a whole lot to disrespect me. I'm a peace-loving guy. I am the guy that turns the other cheek. So it takes a whole lot to disrespect me, and this is not sufficient to disrespect me. Perhaps disrespectful to the office I hold, perhaps. To me personally, no. In this job I have learned over the last 2 years to take nothing personal, right? All I'm saying is that it would have been nice if at least the director of TEMA and those leading the operation here was also notified. But we are happy that the information is out there. We are happy that some data is now surfacing, and then we will treat it accordingly.
And what action is the THA prepared to take against the owners of the vessel?
That I wish to answer at a later point. At this point, I want us to focus on the cleanup activities. Given how the THA works systematically, I don't want to overburden the system with too many tasks at this time. For us, right now, the primary task is cleaning the area and ensuring that we're back to business as normal. And let me hasten to point out that the international community is very much interested in what is happening here. So far, I have done 2 interviews with BBC Radio. I have done one with Radio France. I have done one with one of the largest television stations in Turkey. I have BBC sometime tomorrow. I have Reuters also standing by sometime tomorrow. So the international community is in fact paying attention to what is happening here. And the message that should resonate loud and clear with the world is that this mishap happened. Tobago and by extension Trinidad, we are cleaning this up, and we are doing it to the highest environmental standards. And finally, that the Tobago product is not adversely impacted, because we still have the best beaches in the world, we still have the best and cleanest environment in the world, and Tobago's doors are still open to you. It is on purpose I wear this cap every time I come to speak with you.
Now, before just a couple hours ago, when we found out the information, we were sort of operating on the intelligence or possible intelligence that this might be connected to illicit activities. Is that still the information? Where does that bit of information now fall now that we kind of have some idea about the vessel?
Well, I cannot declare now if the activity was legitimate or illicit. I cannot. And so I don't want to speculate about that at this time. I prefer for us to get the facts. We will still extract all of the hydrocarbons being emitted from the vessel. We will ensure that we still do our due diligence and look for the identity markers on the vessel to ensure that it is consistent with what we are now being told. And we will ensure that those who are responsible, that they are made to pay for this responsibility. We have some questions online. I see we have Stephen Cummings. So Mr. Cummings first, followed by Mr. Turner, followed by Mr. Leacock. So Cummings.
Yes, good afternoon, Chief Secretary Stephen Cummings, 98.1 FM. Chief Sec, you mentioned about some of the particles drifting further out into the ocean. I'm wondering if, quite apart from the international sphere, is this now, would you say, a CARICOM issue? Because if you have particles further drifting, we have islands, Grenada, what have you. Are you seeing this also as a CARICOM issue?
Certainly it is. As a matter of fact, I would like to believe that when incidents like this happen in any CARICOM state, it becomes an issue for the region. We have had, is it Sidima? We have had Sidima. Sidima also partnered with us and part of our strategic planning meetings and the sending support. So they were always a part of the conversation. When the most recent map with the trajectory is put out there later today, you will make a judgment call for yourself as to how much of it will impact on other territories. But I prefer to have the maps done by the professionals do the talking. But to answer in short, yes, this is a CARICOM issue because a CARICOM territory has been adversely impacted. Mr. Turner?
Yes, good afternoon. I have 4 questions. The first 2 for Mr. Douglas. Would he be able to tell us whether he has noticed any change in the type or quantity of catch by fishermen since this incident has taken place? Also, does he think that this incident further highlights the need for fishermen to outfit their vessels with GPS to make for easy identification should something go wrong with them out at sea? My last couple, in terms of yesterday I spoke with Mr. Stewart and he indicated that there was a breach around the vessel in terms of the booms. I just wanted to get an update from him as to whether that was in fact contained. And finally, given the air quality as it stands now, does that mean that the 2 schools that were closed would be reopening soon? And if so, how soon?
Yes, sir. First, I want to answer a couple of the questions and leave that last question to the Chief Secretary or Mr. Allen. One, what I would have done as the president of ATFA, we would have asked the fisher folks in those communities that were affected to pull up their boats, so they were practically grounded. So what I did is ground those from fishing in those areas and use the fisher folk in assisting the whole cleanup through TEMA and the office of the Chief Secretary, right? So I would have done that. And 3, yes, we would have started a drive probably about 8-9 years ago where we we were advocating to outfit all fisher folk with GPS and fish finders, right? But now we are advanced, so now we are hoping to install or have each fisher folk go out with satellite phones, because with satellite phones you can have direct cause information in the terms of emergency. So as it processes, as the years goes by, we look for more newer technology in which to work to make fisher folk more easier in the terms of communicating with land and also at sea, because we was facing difficulties when we reach 30 and 25 and 30 miles to get reception. So yes, we are equipping our fisher folk with GPS and fish finders as we go ahead, because some have and some don't. So right now we do share. And in the terms of fish catch, yes, there is a deduction in the area. So you find there was a deduction in the area because that was a barracuda and a snapper ground. So we find a little bit of, less sales, less catch, because I would have told the fisher folks not to fish in these areas because we didn't know whether if the area was polluted and it would affect the public. So you find both from Scarborough, Lambo, Boko and these places and Plymouth, I ask them to pull up and do not fish in this area to mitigate or to prevent any form of spread of any type of infection in the fish industry.
Yes, indeed. I just want to respond to the colleague. I normally call him 95 OCM, so he know what that means. Yes, one of the booms went loose based on the anchorage, and that was repaired. We came to it with the understanding that the terrain required a particular type of boom. These booms traditionally comes with a type of anchors that are more friendly to sandy floors in the sea. However, the place where what we are dealing with, definitely, as you know, it's coral, and that boom did not work quite well. But yesterday, the teams, along with help from the Maritime Division, we were able to free up some hook-type anchors with claws that could assist in ensuring that these things remain stationary in a particular position that can hold the anchors properly. So that was quickly repaired. But I know when the media sometimes asks me these questions, it's because they know the truth. They just want it to be factually said by somebody in a responsible area. So I had to confess the truth, and I did so. So, Mr. Turner, that was taken care of.
And just to add to that though, we will provide the necessary footage and so on after today's activity. We have them out there. So not only have they repaired the boom, they have installed secondary ones, and they are monitoring. So we'll provide the footage subsequently. In terms of the question with regards to the schools, yes, we expect schools to be reopened soon. Some temporary work was done with Lambo Anglican. The standard 5 pupils are up at TITL, what we call 211. They were temporarily relocated because they have exams in about 3 weeks' time, and we did not want them to be impacted negatively at all. So we have them being treated and we have a sort of weekly operation for the others. But we expect schools to be reopened soon. Listen out to the Division of Education, and they will provide you on the more recent updates, because the school supervisors are working along with the school principals and the middle managers in ensuring that school operations resume fully as soon as is possible. Mr. Leacock?
Good afternoon, Chief Secretary, and to all the people at the head table. I have 3 quick questions. One of them is, it seems obvious, especially because there's no self-reporting, that some kind of illegal activity is involved. Are you aware, Trinidad and Tobago, yet aware of which international agencies would come into play if there is supposed to be a prosecution of somebody? My second question is whether dispersants are being used, because we are hearing all the time about sort of recovering the oil and that kind of stuff. But we've seen in other circumstances where detergents have been used as dispersants to try to break up the oil. And my third and last question is, we when there was the flooding in Trinidad, we did hear that Trinidad and Tobago has insurance for matters like that. I was trying to find out whether Trinidad and Tobago holds insurance, particularly being an oil-producing country, holds insurance to treat with the cost of incidents like this. Thanks.
I thank you very much. I suspect that Trinidad and Tobago does have insurance to treat with incidents like this. There is in fact CCRIF or CRIF. CCRIF, you can look at that, and that should give you all information is needed in terms of international insurance. But I also explained our partnership with OSRL as well, something that we buy into that brings the additional support. The second question in terms of the use of dispersants, the environmentalists have been guiding the cleanup efforts, and they have asked us to be judicious about the use of dispersants and the use of chemicals to break up the oil particles, especially since the wreckage is so close to shore. Notwithstanding, some will be used in very controlled areas to treat with that. We also are using, I spoke with the peat moss product in some of our river mouths and so on in a very controlled way. We know we have to use some cleaning of some kind for the stones and so on, some dispersants on the stones and the rocks that are now stained with the oil. And I also want you to bear in mind that some of it will naturally break itself up, because for the most part this is a natural product. It comes from a natural place. It's just that it takes a while for it to break itself up, to break down. So, and that's why we have to remove as much of it as possible. So we are basically being guided by international protocols and ensuring that we meet the dictates of the environmentalists on this one. In fact, at some point I will want to invite the environmentalists to take a tour with me to see exactly what we are doing, because we are confident that we meet international best practice on this one. In terms of your first question, which is a question about how illegal this may be, and whether or not there are international bodies that can prosecute. I believe that they are. We are a part of all the international signatories to all the international conventions, especially as it relates to IMO, and so that will come into play, and also some prosecution can happen within our space as well. And one of the reasons why I asked the question about the ownership of this vessel and this activity is because if this was caused by a company that wants to get one of our prized assets, then I can't tell the central government what to do, but know that Tobago's response will be no. I saw your hand back up, Cummings.
Yes, Chief Sec. Just another final question. Now, the fact that a vessel, this vessel had not been detected for a while, drifting into local waters, is this yet another case, Chief Sec, you believe, for the need for another look at border security? In this case, Tobago. There have been lapses, and there continue to be lapses.
Well, Mr. Cummings, I have screamed from the highest heavens about the inadequacies when it comes to border control and patrol in the Tobago space. The fisher folk, they are here. They will tell you about the times when they run into difficulty and they call, And when they call, the quickest response is a dispatch from Chaguaramas, as opposed to Scarborough, where there is a Coast Guard base. And that continues to be a problem, and it's not just a case for Tobago, Mr. Cummings, but it's a case for all outlying parts of the country. We ought to, by now, given the resources that we have spent, not just at present, but we have spent in this country since independence, by now we ought to have had an infrastructure that is a lot more robust and that allows for prompt response should any part of our territory be breached. And this highlights that is in fact still a challenge for us all these years post 1962. You can make your assumptions about what that means for national security in another sense, and perhaps why we have a problem with guns in the country. And no, I am not beating up on the Coast Guard men and women. They have been doing a fantastic job with the resources that they have. In fact, yesterday when I went out, instead of going with the usual fishermen or the pilots, I went to the Coast Guard yesterday when I went out. And I could tell you that they are doing a fantastic job. I thank the Prime Minister, who has given the assurances that the vessel aptly named the Scarborough will be back up and running in the soonest possible time. And within a month or so, we'll be back in Tobago. So I want to thank him for that. Well, tomorrow it should be back with goods. So I want to thank him for his commitment in that regard. But yes, we have to do some work when it comes to controlling our borders. It's going to become a larger problem. It's a vessel that came in undetected now. It could be something else. In fact, it has been other things, and it has done untold damage to our society. So yes, to answer in short, there are gaps, there are breaches, and this is an opportunity for us as a country to sit and rethink border control, border patrol, especially with our waters. We live on islands, and because we live on islands, we are surrounded by water. So it will only make sense that our line of security begins not just in the airspace, but begins in the waters around us. And we have neighbors that are relatively close to us. We need to begin the activation by managing our maritime space much better than we are. I want to again thank all of you for coming out. I want to thank you, Tobago, for staying tuned. We will keep you updated. It's not the end of the exercise because we now have found a name, or we now was told a name. There is a lot more work to be done, but I believe we have the matter under significant control at this time. The only factor that remains uncontrolled as of now is those pursuant to the questions I've asked concerning the vessel, concerning what it was carrying, the tonnage and all of those things. But outside of that, I believe that we are at a place that we can smile. You can look at Scarborough. We have had today to share with our visitors that came in on the cruise ship that it's not, we don't want you to bathe there just yet. Yes, it looks clear, but take your photos, but we don't want you to bathe there just yet. We can take you down to Pigeon Point or elsewhere. So we are getting there. Scarborough is smiling again because the cleanup is a lot more visible. But know that we just have to keep putting in the work until we get it all done. We won't stop until it's all fixed correctly. Thank you very much, and God's richest blessings.